In the original scenario, Act 3 The Failed Swordsman of Sylvania, the second joint combat training episode, the protagonist, Taylor, defeated all the strongest students from the first year. However, after finally defeating Claude from the alchemy faculty who drank the blood of the fallen god, and leaving the joint training site, he heard the news of Adele's death. The reason for Adele's death was not explained in detail in the game. Clarice, who was once an immature child, completely lost faith in the church and her attitude changed 180 degrees. Because of this sudden change in attitude, even players criticized the developers because this could be considered character destruction. The Saintess of Mistrust, the church sent troops to the island of Arkan to capture the Saintess of Mistrust who opposed them, which in the end, Lucy faced the church troops alone and put up an all-out fight, which made her the final boss of Act 3, Awakened Lucy. This was the original scenario in Act 3, but what he saw at this time completely subverted his cognition, because he knew, the majestic creature that suddenly appeared was the Saint Dragon, Velbrock, the creature that will become the boss in Act 5 and the final boss that ends all the scenarios of the failed swordsman of Sylvania, has awakened now. Ed is completely confused by what exactly happened, and why the creature suddenly awakened. It is a creature that is so powerful, by only lifting one leg, he was able to devastate the entire academy, and what was exaggerated was, it was just a normal movement and not magic. With that one footstep alone, who knows how many victims fell. The academy that was once lively because of the joint combat training, the atmosphere immediately turned into despair. Ed also looked overwhelmed by the pressure exerted by the Saint Dragon, and when he directed his gaze to a place that was stepped on by the Saint Dragon, gloom then appeared in his eyes. He never imagined this scene. Half of the dormitory building and all its residents were obliterated to the ground due to its trample. He survived because he happened to be in the faculty building. He is still alive now purely because of luck. But, when the students desperately ran away from the creature, Ed was the opposite. He ran over and jumped out of the faculty building through the window glass. In the middle of his landing, Ed then used Glass's golden phoenix ring. Although he would not be able to use magic for years after using this, no, what was worse was that he might never be able to use magic again, and in the worst case, his life might be in danger if he was not careful, because now, Ed decided to use the maximum output that the ring could produce. He then summoned Matilda and immediately ran towards the scene. Ed realized that he could not hesitate or be afraid. After all, if this continued, if they remained silent, they are the ones who will die. Ed then told Marilda to run at full speed. Meanwhile in the tricks hall, confusion and panic then arose there when the earthquake resulting from the appearance of the Saint Dragon occurred. In Clarice's room, the guards then anxiously asked Clarice to leave there immediately. Clarice said that she knew. She then told them to quickly gather the others. They had to move quickly. The sudden shock caused by the Saint Dragon seemed to cause some injuries to Clarice's body. While extending his hand to her, one of the guards asked her to take his hand. They would escort her to the carriage, but right after the guards said that, something unexpected happened. Some sharp things suddenly appeared to break the wall beside the guards and pierced their bodies. But fortunately Clarice was able to react quickly and immediately protected her body using sacred magic. After the throwing of some things finally ended, dust flew up and then appeared to fill the room. Clarice's breath was gasping after facing such a shocking thing. She was confused. What exactly happened? And after she carefully observed the thing that pierced the guards, she then became even more confused. It looked like dragon scales. And when she observed the condition of the guards, she was then shocked that just releasing dragon scales to the ground could cause this kind of disaster. The room was filled with the blood of the guards and their corpses that drooped helplessly on the ground. One of the surviving guards then immediately approached Clarice and led her away from there. After the two of them finally got out of the tricks hall, the guard then immediately called the coachman and told him to bring the carriage. But, while holding his injured hand, the coachman apologized to Clarice. The carriage had been destroyed. Instead, he asked her to please ride this horse. It was trained. He said that it would take her out of the Arkan Island through the Mex's bridge. Hearing that, with a teary face, Clarice with a trembling voice said that she had never ridden a horse, but, when she looked more carefully at the state of the guard who was leading her earlier, her eyes then widened in shock. The condition of the guard leading her was really bad at the moment. One of his hands was even cut off, but, he still prioritized Clarice's safety as the first. While handing over the horse's rope to Clarice, he said that she should just hold the reins tightly and hug the horse's neck. After Clarice got on the horse, The coachman then patted the horse's neck. He told it to go and take the saintess out of the city. After that, the horse then ran at full speed while carrying Clarice on its back. Clarice screamed in fear due to the speed of the horse, and at this moment, when she was taken out of the city by the horse, she was finally able to observe the situation of the academy and what was really happening. Clarice cried sadly when she witnessed such a tragic scene. She thought it was just an exaggerated legend. But then, she remembered something from a book that the Archbishop had read to her. She remembered the explanation of a book, which mentioned a very powerful creature, the Saint Dragon, Velbrock. Its figure was so large that it could be seen from any angle in the academy. Its arrival brought destruction and despair to the academy. As if still not satisfied with the destruction it had brought, the Saint Dragon then took a long breath and gathered energy in its mouth. It was a unique skill belonging to the Dragon clan, Dragon's Breath. The magic contained in its breath was like the power of the sun itself. To everything that exists beneath it, it brings destruction. Clarice, who quietly walked out of the city while riding a horse, was automatically covered by the dragon's breath that Saint Dragon released, but, when she could only stare desperately at the powerful dragon's breath that Saint Dragon released, a barrier suddenly appeared enveloping the academy and successfully blocked the dragon's breath. It was an advanced magic, large-scale magic. Nullification barrier. Clarice was certainly confused and shocked when she saw it, and when she looked up, she then saw a person who fearlessly faced that mighty creature alone, and when Clarice observed the person more carefully, she then immediately recognized the person. He was the principal of the Sylvania Academy, Abel Photius. Principal Abel also seemed to be surprised by the earlier-than-expected resurrection of the Saint Dragon, but that didn't dampen his spirits. He was determined not to let it bring further destruction to the academy. But, even though Principal Abel had cast advanced magic to protect the academy, but that didn't seem to be enough to stop the Saint Dragon. It could quite easily break the barrier and attack him. Principal Abel looked quite worried when he saw the Saint Dragon's claws flying towards him. It didn't even give him enough time to cast magic, but fortunately, someone then came and shared the pressure with him. She cast the supreme telekinetic magic, Chains of Providence, and managed to stop the Saint Dragon's attack. That person was none other than Lucy. With a helpless sigh, Lucy then rudely called Principal Abel. Lucy had already promised Glock that she would help deal with the threats that came to the academy at least once, but she never imagined that the threat would be like this. Lucy then continued to mobilize her mana to summon chains to entangle the Saint Dragon. The Saint Dragon looked very angry when its legs were suddenly chained by a small and weak creature in front of it, and even though it was a chain that came from the supreme magic that Lucy personally cast, the chain seemed unable to entangle the dragon for too long. After successfully breaking the chain that Lucy summoned, the Saint Dragon then turned its eyes towards her and attacked her using its huge claws. Lucy's eyes widened in shock when she saw that. She didn't seem to expect the supreme magic she cast would be so easily broken by it, and when the dragon's claws finally landed on her, the resulting impact made Lucy fall hard to the ground. Not stopping there, the impact of this continued to make her thrown back and destroy every building in its path. Clarice, who was not far away, was also affected by the impact of her fall, which forcibly stopped her driving speed, but fortunately, although the impact of the attack that Saint Dragon threw at her was quite hard, but Lucy was fortunately unharmed because she could quickly react and immediately protect her body with a barrier. But when Lucy returned her gaze to Saint Dragon, she then could only stare in confusion. Her interruption earlier seemed to give enough time for Principal Abel to finish casting his magic. He thanked her for buying time for him. The magic that Principal Abel was casting at this time was like a net covering every inch of the academy. It was the supreme defensive magic, shield of the Creator God. The magic managed to block the attack that the Holy Dragon launched at them. If you were in the Sylvania Academy right now and looked up, you would see two figures floating in the air with a terrible flow of mana enveloping them. The two of them were like two guardians protecting the academy from all kinds of dangers. Clarice could only stare in shock at the scene. The shock brought by today's events made her almost crazy, and if she observed more carefully to the surrounding environment, she would then see the floor covered with blood and the corpses of the students lying there. With a trembling voice, Clarice said that she had to go to the Mex's bridge immediately. She must leave this place immediately, but, when she looked at her hands which were now covered with blood, her gaze then turned into fear. She was confused about what to do, but, in the midst of her fear and despair, someone suddenly came and calmed her down. he said that she was safe now, and when Clarice looked at the person, she was then shocked. The person was Ed. Ed's condition was not much better than her now, his body was covered in blood, even one of his hands looked like it would be paralyzed at this time. Even so, Ed then sighed with relief after finding her. He was grateful for having found her here. While extending his hand towards her, Ed asked if she was hurt. Clarice then stood up while being helped by Ed. She said that she was not hurt, but she then confusedly asked him why he knew she was here. Ed explained, "I know you have an appointment with an important guest, so I guessed that you would be in the Trix Hall." Hearing that, Clarice said that she rode a horse to go to the Mex's bridge, but Ed told her that it was useless, there were too many people, and even if she left this island, she was still within the dragon's reach. In the worst case, she would die for nothing. After explaining that to her, Ed then climbed back onto Marilda's back and helped Clarice to climb up. He then directed his gaze back upwards. Ed realized that no human would be able to fight that monster. Even Lucy and Abel might only be able to withstand it, at least, based on the original scenario. Only Taylor, who had reached his full potential and mastered the sword saint ritual, would be able to overcome it. This was really a desperate situation. Ed even thought about whether they should just give up, but Ed quickly dismissed the thought as soon as it appeared. He told himself to stay focused. From the start the original scenario had already deviated. He then told Marilda to speed up the pace. Ed thought, first they had to find the cause of this massive distortion. He was sure there must be a way to make the Saint Dragon fall asleep again. At first he thought that this was his fault too, because the story did not follow the original scenario. He always suspected that he was the cause, but he quickly rejected this assumption. One flutter of a butterfly should not make the whole world destroyed. Even so, he was still confused why the last scenario that should appear in Act 5, instead appeared in Act 3. First of all, he had to find out who resurrected the Saint Dragon. Based on the elimination of possibilities, information could be gathered from the key characters in Act 3. Lucy was currently fighting the Saint Dragon, so it couldn't be her. Looking at Clarice's frightened look, she seemed completely unaware of this. The protagonist Taylor could also be ruled out. He was probably currently busy saving people, meaning that besides him, there must be someone who had twisted the scenario. A figure then appeared in Ed's mind when he thought about it. His eyes widened as a result of the conjecture he got. He even had time to deny the conjecture. Meanwhile in the Nail Hall, the scene there was like chaos with the dragon scales constantly bombarding the building. The desperate voices of the students continued to be heard and they frantically fled from there. Amidst the panic and desperation, there was a student who walked casually there while humming a song. She seemed out of place. She then returned to reading the letter in her hand. Nail Hall Duel Room, 1 p.m., Adele Saris. Clarice, please wait for your next duel match assignment. The 1 p.m. training session in Duel Room 3 has been cancelled due to the Saint's sudden schedule change. The person was none other than Adele. Reading the letter, Adele felt it was very unfortunate, even though they could finally meet again, but, while looking back, she then smiled slightly. She didn't really care about it. After all, the wind would blow again, it would always blow.